Joe the Pro here at the Grand Del Mar with Shawn Cox, the director of golf here. What a fabulous place, Shawn. Awesome. A little bit about Shawn. He came up the ranks through Torrey Pines, La Jolla Country Club, and now he is here at the Grand Del Mar as a director of golf. And also, Shawn is our 2018 SCPGA Golf Professional of the Year.
Thank you.
Shawn, it is so great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
We're right in the middle of the teaching and coaching summit here at the Grand Del Mar. It's been going absolutely fabulous. You know, some incredibly headlining speakers today and yesterday, and
it's really a dream of mine to host something like this because, you know, I'm really into education. I think that any day that you're alive and you're not learning something, you're going a step backwards. And to have the SCPGA behind me when I go to ask, you know, certain big name instructors like Hank Haney or get a guy like Mike Bender to come across the country from Orlando. They know that the Southern California Section PGA is a great organization that's done great things. We've had, you know, best players in the world come from our section. We also have some of the best instructors in the world come out of this area. So when you have that behind you, you get to kind of put on a great event.
yeah, we had Phil Mickelson as our secret guest speaker yesterday. It was quite awesome. So let me ask you a little bit about the Grand Del Mar. This is absolutely the most opulent, phenomenal facility I've ever been at in my 30 years as a golf pro. I can't believe how magnificent this facility is.
So the facility kind of went through a little bit of a change early on. It was built as a high-end public golf course, and it had all the title and everything done to be a hotel, but the original owner didn't break ground on a hotel. There's 26 acres that sits in the middle of a 380 acre golf course that's on a preserve, and a local businessman who built hotels down by the convention center, the Hyatt, the Marriott. He's a golf lover, a member at the Vintage Club and all these La Jolla Country Club and all these different places, and loved golf, and he saw an opportunity to build a world-class, you know, facility, and so he went all in. And it's the most expensive per room cost hotel ever built in California.
Oh, wow.
You know, it took about 2-3 years to become a Forbes 5-star hotel, restaurant, and spa. And basically we've kept that ever since. And probably our biggest honor, if you think about it, is the fact that TripAdvisor is an online where you rate things. It's not something like a paid service, or it's not a magazine. It's people's feedback on their stay, and we've won twice for the best hotel in the United States.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and so for me, as on the golf side, a couple of years ago, we started becoming a gold medal golf resort. You know, people, you know, are still kind of trying to find out about us. It's one reason we hosted this California Teaching and Coaching Summit, was to try to get more people here to see it. Just
Right.
like yourself. It's
Yeah.
first time here, right?
First time here.
Yeah.
This place is magnificent. The Grand Del Mar. If you want a 5-star experience, this is a place you want to come. You will be amazed. So, Shawn, a little bit about your college football days. Care to share your successes on the football field?
So I was kind of the guy that learned to play golf when I was about 6 years old from my grandpa. My mom played golf at Arizona State. I was actually born in Arizona in Phoenix area, but I was a football, baseball, basketball guy. And when I was graduating from high school, I almost went to the Air Force Academy to play football. I almost went to, you know, Oregon State to play football. I almost went to Boise State. And I ended up actually deciding to take a baseball scholarship to University of Nebraska. And being a West Coast guy, and I grew up in Seattle, I got a little homesick out in Nebraska. It wasn't quite, we had first like 10 games snowed out in baseball. And so I kind of missed Seattle, and I actually walked onto the football team. And I immediately made the travel team after 1 year, which was kind of crazy, being a walk-on. And I got to play in a Rose Bowl twice, and I got to, you know, be around a team that went 12-0, and we won a national championship in 1991. And so to this day, it's probably, you know, in our minds, one of the, you know, top 10 best football teams ever. We had 11 guys drafted that year, including the #1 pick, a guy named Steve Entman, who finished third in the Heisman, and he was a defensive tackle. I mean, being around these guys. And the main thing about the whole deal was the coach, Don James. He held everybody accountable. I mean, if you were a starter or whoever you were never late to a meeting. You were never, everything was accountable from weight room to strength training to practice to even, getting your ankles taped. I mean, everything was structured. And so, getting out of college and getting into the work world, it wasn't a big like, oh my gosh, now I got to get serious about life. I mean, I was serious about life for 4 years in college. It was a very structured program.
Shawn, how did you become a golf pro after that success as a football player?
So, I caddied actually in the summer times at Sahali, which held the PGA championship that Vijay Singh won. I actually was here in San Diego working and went up there for a couple of days to watch it at Sahali because I had that connection to it. So I always loved golf. And I got out of college and I was gonna, possibly apply for, a couple different things. And I had a couple friends who decided, let's get out of Seattle. The weather's not too great. Let's go somewhere where it's warmer. And we picked San Diego. And the first day I got here, I went to Torrey Pines and they hired me on the spot. And the next day I started. About 6 months later, I moved into the golf shop. I became the junior golf director. I had a girl that was in my program when she was 11 that I coached all the way to the LPGA Tour. A girl named Charlotte Mayorkas, who was a 3-time All-American at UCLA. So it's hard to believe, 25 years ago, somebody in our junior program actually took a lesson from me and then stayed with me because what I taught then and what I taught now, I think I'm a lot more skilled. But, as we've been going through this, summit, it's a lot about relationships. They have to believe in you. I came out of college, as somebody that, believed in myself and everything that I've done in the industry is, I feel, confident in what I do, but I'm also humble enough to know that I don't know everything.
Right. It was, Hank Haney said it yesterday. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's a good quote.
Right.
You need to write that one down.
That's awesome. And of course, again, he's 2018 Golf Pro of the Year. He's been the president of the San Diego chapter, vice president, worked his way, works on the boards. He's on the Disabled Golf Committee with me. Brought his guys to Camp Pendleton to learn how to work with the Wounded Warriors, started his own program. So, Shawn, it's just phenomenal. Please tell me a little bit about your family. I've heard nice things.
So I've been married, November will be 19 years. I met my wife actually here in San Diego. She's a wonderful person. My son is 16, my daughter is almost 15, and she's been basically the hardest working mom ever. She's been taking care of the kids while I've enjoyed working at the golf course. I've been very fortunate in the last 16 years since I had my son that my wife's been, kind of taking the kids to school and bringing them home. And, I've had the privilege of coaching them in sports, basketball, football, and I've coached my daughter and my son golf a little bit, and they're pretty good golfers. They're not quite ready for, the state championship, but they can hold their own. And through that, probably, I must take my hat off to the PGA Junior League. That was perfect for my kids. It wasn't too much pressure. It was a great introduction. They met some great friends through it. And I couldn't thank, the people that invented that anymore. The format, the concept, the uniforms, everything about it was perfect for my kids.
Awesome. Well, good. Lastly, Shawn, I know you're pressed for time. We're in the middle of the teaching and coaching summit. I dragged them away from the lunch, but I gotta hear it. What is your favorite golf tip?
So I came up with a concept based on something that kind of stuck in my mind. My mentor was Phil Rogers. Unfortunately, he passed away about 3 months ago. When we were using video 15, 20 years ago, he talked about the classic finish. We're in a room here that has some golf photos in here. There's one not right behind us. But the golf club typically finishes when you finish between the two ears, the shaft of the club. And everybody weight transfers and finishes on their back toe. And so there's a weight transfer, and then there's a position that everybody kind of finishes with the club. Well, what I thought about is that basically, most tour pros are pretty close to having a perfect swing plane. They might have different back swings, but when they get to the top of the swing, they're all almost identical when it comes through the ball. And because of the momentum of the club swings around into a certain position that they all pretty much look the same. You don't see too many tour pros with their elbows up or their elbows down. They finish at this L position with the shaft between the two ears. So I do that on the first lesson. I teach people by setting up, and I'm very conscious about the grip because I feel like most people start with too weak of a left hand, and from then on they're starting to learn to do funny things to square the face. The grip is very important. That's more important in the beginning than posture to me. I'll try to teach them posture, but the grip, and then what I'll have them do is push the balls into the driving range. And when they push it, in the beginning they'll try to push it with their upper body. And what I'll try to teach them is it comes from the middle of the body, it comes from your legs, and I'll teach them, and they'll push the balls into the range and they'll go to their finish. And we'll do about 20 of those before we ever do a backswing. And what I find is if you paint a picture of where it needs to go, they're not going to get so lost taking the club back and bringing it down because their brain knows I've got to get to here. And so I teach from the finish first, instead of worrying about where the club needs to be on the first foot or how far to take it back. And what I've found is in every lesson that I do with a beginner, by the time we finish the lesson, they'll hit a couple balls and their eyes will light up and they'll see a couple balls go, because if you follow through, you're bound to hit a couple within that lesson, and that's really the hook that gets them into the game. If I know it makes more sense to take somebody and start with putting and progress to longer and longer and longer. That makes more sense, but we have very little time to try to get these people hooked into the game, and if we screw that up, we may lose them, and I don't want to screw that up. I want them to hear that noise of that ball flying out and their eyes to get big and they say, maybe I can do this. This could be good. And that's my whole goal in the first lesson.
Awesome. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for the time. 2018 Southern California PGA Golf Professional of the Year. Amazing guy. Mad respect throughout the entire Southern California PGA golf community for this gentleman right here. Director of Golf for the Grand Del Mar. Again, come check this place out. You won't believe it. Shawn, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.